Now get ready for a talk from Artem Harutyunyan, co-founder and CTO of Bardeen AI. Bardeen AI is an AI agent designed to automate repetitive tasks with simple prompts, seamlessly integrating with your apps and browser to enhance productivity. Let's turn our attention to Artem Harutyunyan and his presentation, From Gimmick to Game Changer, the right way for organizations to embrace AI agents.
Hi, I'm Artem from Bardeen, and today we're talking about the right way for organizations to embrace AI agents. So, a few words about myself. I'm a co-founder and CTO at Bardeen AI. We're an AI co-pilot for go-to-market teams. Here's my LinkedIn profile and my email in case you want to contact me. And with that, let's dive right in. Before we go there, I just probably will say that this is a kind of a high-level talk where I share my view on automation in general and AI agent in particular. And at the very end, I will conclude with a demo of Bardeen AI, and hopefully it will be helpful for you. But yeah, the first thing that I want to mention is that not every task is worth automating. So what do I mean by that? So, there are some tasks that are, while they're maybe like very impressive to read about on Twitter, that you can have an AI organize an entire vacation trip for you. That's not a very high return on investment. That's not a repetitive. That's not interest. I mean, that's maybe interesting from kind of like a technologist point of view, but that's not very interesting from a business point of view. As a business, we want to focus on certain types of tasks, and we want to make sure that we actually end up saving time and we get like positive return on our investment. As you can see here, in theory, we want to do some work so that we end up doing less work over time. But what ends up happening is that we start with thinking that we'll automate and it will be helpful, and end up actually spending much more time on it. And there are a lot of reasons for this, but mostly is because a lot of times tools and technologies are not very adequate for solving the problem at hand, and we end up spending more time babysitting the tool as opposed to solving the actual problem that we begin with. Generative AI kind of burst into the scene, became a very mainstream thing a few years ago, and because it is such a versatile tool, people immediately started using it for all sorts of things, including for web automation. And because web is essentially text, it's different type of text, but it is text. It was kind of natural that people tried to start to kind of shove entire web pages and web applications into LLMs, and asking LLMs to do things with it. I think there are a few very fundamental issues with that kind of like a direct approach of solving this problem. First and foremost, everything that we see around us, all the applications, everything that we use day to day is designed for humans. And the thing with humans is that humans are very easily overwhelmed, and so all the good applications that we can see and we use, they're always simple. And what does it mean to be simple? It means that like at any given point in time, you're only staring at a few number of elements, because the designers of those apps want to make sure that whatever is important, whatever is the 80, as in 80/20, is in front of your eyes and you don't get distracted. However, those apps have like endless layers of sub menus, sub items, things that pop up from left, from right, that kind of respond to our interaction. But they are designed for humans, meaning not all the information is available all the time. And when you're showing that thing to an LLM, that information is often not adequate for it to be able to do a decision necessary to achieve achieve the solution for the problem. So what we see usually is this something that's designed for a human eye. What's underneath it is like very complex tree structure with like HTML and with like CSS and JavaScript layered on top. So fundamentally it's very hard for LLM to make a sense out of it. And yes, there have been a lot of advances recently, but this is not something that kind of is a natural fit for the problem. Secondly, again, because the web interface is designed for humans, there is a lot of times built-in things that like actively prevent and thwart automation. Like for example, captchas and other things that actively prevent those applications from being used by anything other than humans, right? And they were done to protect against bots and malicious actors and so on. But again, agents these days often run into those same issues. And thirdly, again, because web applications are mainly designed for humans, they change all the time. The layout changes all the time. There are like A/B tests and other things going on that again make it a very challenging environment for an agent to work and produce reliable results. Some other kind of structural systematic problems. LLMs excel at language, but are not so good at context. They don't know the history. They don't have the depth. They can say something, but they it's not always something worth saying, or it's not a smart thing to say. Outputs are not deterministic. Again, it's kind of by nature, by design. The other thing to think about is like any interesting workflow in an enterprise worth automating usually consists of several steps. And if if you have like even if each individual step has like a low probability of failure, let's say 5%, but of course in reality we know that it's not 5%, it's more like 50% for each individual step. Well, what it does for the workflow overall, if you have a 10-step workflow with only 5% of failure at any individual step, if you have a 10-step workflow, you end up having like a 40% chance of like the overall workflow failing, at which point it's actually worse because imagine that like, you started kind of like a complex workflow that involves several steps where you have to like get the data, enrich it, make some decision, put it in one system, put it in another system, like, put it into a CRM, put it into an outgoing sequence, and then only half of it works. I think you usually, you end up with a mess that, that ends up actually consuming your time instead of helping. All right. So what are the good things for agents to like what are the good things, what are the things that are actually worth thinking about automating? And this is in general, this is not only about, this has nothing to do in AI per se, but in general, if you look at this two by two, so you have tasks can be either repeatable or like one-offs. For example, planning a vacation for me is a one-off. I only do it, I don't know, every so often. I definitely don't do it every week. And then there are things that are like low leverage and high leverage, meaning doing not all tasks are created equal, and some are more important than others. And obviously, the interesting ones are the ones where that are repeatable and have like high value, high leverage. And so these are the tasks that have the most time and have the biggest organizational impact. And there can be different reasons why this task may have an impact depending on the organization. But the point is that it's a good idea to kind of apply judgment when picking what tasks to automate, what to work on. The other thing is we already have an amazing way of like working with a lot of those systems, which is the APIs, right? So for example, if you need to, let's say, fill in a sheet and add like, if you have like 20 columns and you have to add like, 50 rows to a sheet, create like 50 records, that's like 1,000 cells to fill, right? Well, if you're using just, an agent or an operator or a computer user or whatever the case may be, every cell becomes like a chance for a failure. Whereas, if you know what to put in those cells, like you can fill the entire sheet with just a simple API call. And so I think for a lot of systems where there is an API, where it is possible to kind of use like tried and proven method for interacting with the app, as opposed to kind of building a bot that goes and like starts clicking around, mimicking human behavior. It's always better to use those APIs. And yeah, so you eliminate the chance for failure. That's like much faster and much more reliable. You can actually have very high degree of certainty that it will work, right? Like if you're, if you're using Gmail API to create 20 Gmail drafts, you will end up with 20 Gmail drafts. Like, whereas if you're using an agent, you may or may not end up with 20 drafts in your inbox because agents hallucinate, they forget halfway through, and so on and so forth. So basically, what what I'm trying to convey here is AI is amazing. It solves a lot of world real problems that enterprises have, but not every problem has to be solved with AI. And I believe the right approach is the clever combination of both. Where if you have a workflow, if you have an agent, it doesn't need to be 100% based on AI, or it doesn't need to be like 100% based on just kind of pre-AI era methods. But I think the winning approach here is going to kind of take the best of both worlds and kind of mesh it together in a smart way. Another important consideration here is that keeping humans in the driver's seat because of the non-determinism, because of all the hallucinations, all the kind of language being a pretty lousy medium for transferring information. If you think about it, like how many times in a day when like even in human to human communication we say something but we are misheard, misunderstood, thoughts can be like misrepresented and so on and so forth. And I think there is like inherent limitation in the language to kind of transfer meaning. And so because of that, you can it's very hard to imagine where you basically can go like from a prompt to ready to use and 100% correct actions. It doesn't even happen in real life, right? Like even if if you have an intern or someone who is working for you, you tell them something, it's yes, sometimes they do exactly what you ask, but often that is not the case. And so the same thing with AI, it's kind of naive to assume that we will come to this world where like you just from a simple prompt, from an utterance, you can get to this, very precise execution of a task. And so human oversight is important here. And again, but this oversight needs to be implemented in a smart way. And so again, my philosophy here is you have to, so like AI is very good for kind of crossing the chasm of like someone not knowing the technology, right? Like not being able to program, not understanding all the technical intricacies. But like there has to be a loop where you say something, AI interprets it, and it doesn't take it and like runs with it, but it kind of comes back, gives you a chance to verify that it actually understood, interpreted your ask correctly before running away and executing with it. In conclusion, so we want smart and practical AI designed around repeatable and high impact tasks. We want to make sure there's like a cohesion between like human and AI, where like both humans and AIs are inserted in the right points in the cycle, and like humans have oversight and ability to verify, if not intervene, for business critical tasks. It's probably not a great idea to just go kind of all in and forget about all the existing systems that we can use to interact, like APIs, and those systems are tried and proven, and they bring decades of reliability, and people know how to use them. So again, not they're like it's important to kind of find a way to cleverly combine both like existing systems that you would normally leverage for automation, and the new systems. Yeah, lastly, I'm going to finish my talk by just giving a quick demo of Bardeen AI. So as I mentioned, Bardeen AI is an AI copilot for go-to-market teams. So what does it do? So basically, it's a Chrome extension that follows you around the web. You can summon it on any page. And it has this thing called playbooks that are automations that actually combine the abilities of like AI agents to interact with web pages, or that's why it's kind of embedded inside the web. But they also have an ability to work independently. They can work in the background. So, for example, you can have Bardeen allows you to create automations that run in the browser, but it can also run outside the browser. It can run in the cloud, and it kind of combines new AI agents with existing API systems. So what it allows you to do, so because it's designed for go-to-market teams, the existing use cases are centered around go-to-market personas. So we have use cases for sales, for account managers, for customer success managers, and for sales leadership, for RevOps. And so what it does is, so for example, if you're in sales and if you want to do lead sourcing and outreach, instead of expecting you to kind of prompt, your way and explain what exactly do you need to do, it's a more interactive process where you just basically go and you kind of give it a skeleton of, what you want to do. So for example, if we're sourcing leads, we can say that we want to source leads from LinkedIn, and then we want to use, let's say, Apollo, Crunchbase, and like the web and various news sources to enrich the information of the leads that we sourced. We want to use AI to qualify those leads, and then you know, we use, let's say, Lemlist as an outreach tool, and we use HubSpot as our CRM. And again, so what it's going to do is going to basically create a bespoke AI agent based on the workload that we explained, and it will give you an opportunity to go at it step by step, verify that it works. So I'm going to pause it right here so you can see that, like, based on like very simple integration, like explanation of my problem, it came up with this pretty sophisticated agent that goes and connects to different systems. And in some cases, it uses kind of like web interaction when there is no API, and in some other cases where there is an API. So, for example, to eventually create a contact in HubSpot and create a company entry in HubSpot, it's going to use an API. It's not going to spawn a browser window and go and interact with HubSpot that way, because like HubSpot has an API. Same thing for Lemlist, because Lemlist has an API. And here you have a way to kind of modify it. You can talk to it. You can say, for example, send notification in Slack for every lead, and you hit enter, and it will append this flow. So yeah, and you basically run it step by step, and you can run it entirely, or you can run it every step of individually. You can adjust it, and once you're happy, you kind of save it, and once you save it, kind of goes into your library of playbook agents that you can invoke anytime you want. Like I said, you also have auto books. So these are things that run automatically. So for example, and you can create a cool thing about Bardeen is that if we don't have if we don't already cover one of the use cases that you have, you can either kind of start from a blank canvas and kind of prompt your way through. You can say, for example, copy LinkedIn profile information, and then it will create the first step that does that. Then you can keep adding more steps to your flow, or you can do that manually, or you can just go and just explain the entire automation. So you can say copy LinkedIn information to a sheet, enrich it, and send a sheet to Slack. So let's see. And if I toggle this, it will before going straight and trying to interpret the prompt, it's going to show me various like interpretations, and I can pick a one that I like. Because sometimes what happens, people just say something very vague, like give me leads, or do outreach. And so we have this thing to kind of prompt better prompting. And then based on the information, you can see that it's like, okay, so it's going to go search LinkedIn profiles for the specified keywords. then it's going to store those profiles, it's going to enrich them, it's going to add them to a sheet, and it's going to send to Slack. And so, yeah, so this is what Bardeen is in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed this. Here is my contact information again. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And if this is something that you think can be useful for your business, we have an exclusive offer where all the participants of the webinar, of all the participants of this conference actually would get an exclusive 15% discount from us. So yeah, reach out and let us know. And thank you very much for your attention. Bye-bye.
Artem, we appreciate you for showing how organizations can easily integrate AI agents into their operations.